Thank you for joining me today on Life and Surround, David Miles Huber.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I thought it would be nice to start with a brief overview of your musical works.
Oh boy. Started out with relaxational music actually a long, long time ago. And just, I started out being a recording engineer, wanting to be a recording engineer in the worst way, and found out that I like making music. And so I started doing that. I started with relaxational music with MIDI, and then worked my way into doing more up tempo stuff. And so I work all across, like the chill. I call it relaxational actually, and then original music, original mixes, and then dance mixes. This would be for like Chamberland through Gamma and stuff. Yeah, for the latest stuff, it's all different.
Now, I enjoy some relaxation style music occasionally, like Roger Shaw has a great meditation Blu-ray out. And so reading back through your wiki, it looks like you doing a lot of relaxation and some nature type productions.
Yeah, doing nature recording, which is a lot of fun and a lot of work. So yeah, there was a time where I did relaxational. I had dinner with an American friend here in Berlin last night, and he knows like one of the top nature recorders. And it's funny how I like it for him for that type of recordist, everything is all purist, and for me, it's not. Like as I was telling him, recording an ocean ends up sounding like you might as well record a 747 at takeoff. You know,
Sure.
they and so for me, I'll take a little lapping wave and I'll slow it down, and that will become what people tend to think of as being ocean waves. So I sort of screw around with it all.
Let's move forward to your Blu-rays. Particularly for me, that's an exciting topic because that's how I became aware of you, probably on quadrophonic.com, which is a surround website that I hang out on quite a bit. I became
Neat.
aware I became aware of your Gamma release,
Hmm.
and I'm aware that Parallax Eden is also out on Blu-ray. So I just thought it might be nice to talk about those for a minute.
Sure.
Gamma's of particular interest to me because it was released in RO3D, but then upon unpackaging it and checking out the menu options and everything, there are quite a few different mix options on it. There are two different stereo mixes, a 5.1 and an RO mix that are all different from each other.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it is. And it's a lot to digest as well. So could you just maybe walk us through the concept of having all those different mixes and
Yeah, you bet. Well,
sure.
again, like, okay, so, oh God, now it gets complicated. I just start out with a normal mix, and then, which is my initial production. And then I will actually take that production in a way that's too complicated to go into right now, and put that into an Ableton Live performance project. And I perform that here in Berlin at a hotel, which I have to be at in a few hours. And that's more up tempo and has dance grooves and all sorts of stuff. That brings it up in tempo, but also up in general overall, just more towards dance, more fun kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But the base root of all these stuff are the relaxational chill mixes. And so from that, I realized at one time, hey, they're all there. I had the original mix, I had the chill mix, and there's the dance mix. Why not do all three?
Now, are the dance mixes what you refer to as the Berlin mixes?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I create those here and perform them here, and then you can record the performances into Ableton Live. I work in Nuendo. That's my baby. Always has been. And so I had the original mixes, and then I take the Berlin mixes, which had the grooves and all that stuff, and put those back over the original mixes in the original session, and that creates the Berlin mixes. So it's all sort of high quality and all sorts of fun stuff. And from that, I mean, literally, I first of all, I don't record in mono, so I record stereo channels. That's what I do. And that actually helps with immersive, but it also helps with the stereo mix. And it ends up making it so I'll end up having like upwards to 80 stereo tracks, which can be a little nuts, but it's really awesome when you're working in immersive to do that.
So I think we've hit a good segue into Haida or Raven, which is which is
Mm-hmm,
your which is your latest project.
mm-hmm.
I noticed in doing my mix analysis of Haida that you do have some active panning of synths, even from the opening track, Scotch Broom. There's
Yeah,
some,
that would be the panner. So that's the panner, in it's a Cubase panner. So
so
yeah.
I'm sure that recording the synths in stereo helps with that.
Well, it's just there's the panner that's in the session, right? So it's left, right, left, right, left, right, and sometimes when that works, you use it.
Now,
Um,
in some cases, you were able to do that also in the surrounds. I
yeah.
did
Oh
notice
yeah.
some synths like emanating from the surround right and then actively
Uh,
panning over to surround left.
Wrong. Here's the deal. I do not pan.
Explain, I'm interested.
Yeah, I do not use panning at all. I will use delays, but all the things that you hear that going around from other stuff, those are separate tracks. Those are not being panned. I do not use panning. God, it would sound really weird if I used panning. Like I said, there can be up to 80 tracks, stereo tracks. And each of those tracks being stereo have their own degree of stereo immersiveness. Even
Right.
if I'm the left right panning, that's the left right panning of a stereo track, which is sort of weird, but it's probably slightly defeatist. But who cares? Whatever works, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this is why I'm sort of different than a lot of people. I really think there are less than 10 people that do what I do, as far as using the speakers full out. And I don't use a little bit of reverb in the back, and I don't use a kick in the center, and a little bit of, it's full out everywhere. And that comes from simply just a lot of tracks, because of electronic music, and just the ability to know how to do this stuff. I can do that and have a lot of fun. So I do not use panners at all.
So let's talk more about the mix for Haida since we're on that subject.
Sure.
One of the things I love to do most on Life and Surround YouTube videos is a mix analysis, and it's really great that we're talking about this because a lot of times I feel like I'm giving my best attempt at describing a mix, and later I feel like my analysis was usually somewhat clumsy, and we have the opportunity just to like get
Yeah.
the gospel truth straight from the source.
Yeah.
So what I'm
Yeah.
hearing in, for instance, Scotch Broom, the song opens up with some deep bass, uh, a drone that feels somewhat non-directional to me.
A
Uh,
drone that is a 35-piece live Norwegian male choir.
so that's the choir.
Yeah,
Okay, that you had recorded with 2L.
yeah, with Morton.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I want to get to that. Then a sparse piano figure comes in,
Right.
and then what I thought was active panning of a synth, but these are just a variety of stereo synth.
Oh, you're talking about the sample that's in the middle of we're still talking about the intro, right?
Yeah, for Scotch Broom.
Yeah, that sample. It is a screwed around sample that was done on a workstation. If you know your history, Sound Tools was like one of the first DAWs by Digidesign.
Oh, wow.
Uh, this was done well before that. So that sound that you hear in that was actually sound design or sound screwing around with, of one of the earliest workstations that ever existed. I think it was made by Roland, and I
Oh,
had the
wow.
use. Yeah, and so I mean, I've been working on Haida forever.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I want to get to that as well. All right, so
yeah,
moving forward in the track, The track is meditative for several minutes, and then this kind of tribal drum figure begins to fade in.
Hmm.
Then more percussion begins to fill the room all around the listener,
Hmm.
including lots of discrete elements in the rears.
Hmm.
And then this chant comes up. Uh,
Yeah.
feels to me like a Native American chant,
Yeah.
and uh, an instrument that I can't quite place. It sounds to me like a fretless bass, but I have a
Right.
feeling it's not.
It's not. It's a sample from an AR-10. AR-10? And so an ancient, a very, very, very old sampler. This project started in the late 80s.
Yeah, and I
And
noticed that somewhere in the liner notes you mentioned an Alesis SR16,
right.
and
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that device from my
Yeah.
own shady past.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had many good times with an SR16, so it was quite
Yeah. They're
nostalgic for me to see the fact that that device made it into a modern recording.
Well, the thing is it's not a modern recording. It's that this is the thing. It is and it isn't. It is it had its beginnings in the like I said, in probably in the late 80s, I would imagine. Mid to late 80s is when it had it. When I did the original vocals, I was probably 24 years old. I'm 65 now. My timing must be totally off, but anyway, it's for just like forever ago,
That's quite a
and
time span, yeah.
it's a very long time span. And I knew at the time, the technology just was not there for to do what I wanted to do, and and then I realized, okay, its time has come, technology's there, let's do it. And so yeah, and so yeah, but it uses very old technology, and it uses absolutely the cutting edge latest technology.
So you are the low male vocal on the track?
Which track? The vocals?
Scotch Broom in
Yeah,
particular?
that's me.
All right, all right. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the concept for the album.
Oh, thank you. Um, okay, I moved to Seattle in the early 80s, and I moved there at a time. Seattle is a beautiful, beautiful city.
I've lived
Um,
there.
well, there you go. It's a beautiful city. We live 7 minutes from downtown, and we live in trees. And I shouldn't be telling people this. It's bad. It's horrible. It rains all the time. Stay away is what you're
Right,
supposed to.
right. Yeah, avoid, avoid.
Yeah, right. And but the actual truth is we also have a cabin up in the Skagit Valley, halfway between Seattle and Vancouver. And there is a power to the land, and I have experienced that. There is a power to the land that the natives. It's part of their culture, and before everybody from everywhere started moving into Seattle and turned it into Microsoft land and
Yeah, now
startups
Amazon land.
and Amazon land and on and on and on and on and on. It's still there, but it really, man can really screw that up. And this is all about the power of the land, completely separate from people. It's about the Pacific Northwest, from Seattle up to the Queen Charlotte Islands. So Seattle past Vancouver and up.
Now, I
And it's
certainly felt that connection as a 6-year resident of Seattle and having spent a lot of time out in the San Juans.
well, there you
And
go.
so I'm familiar with, that the happy fact that you do see and experience a lot of native culture
Yeah,
in that area.
yeah,
It's not hard to find.
yeah. But I've been lucky enough to be, to have been invited in to some degree to that.
So
And
let's talk further about that. One of the contributors to the album
yeah,
is a Native American storyteller. Can you tell us her name and give us her story?
Vi, yeah, Vi Hilbert. And Vi died about 4 years ago, and I have known Vi for a long time. And when I asked Vi, can I come out and do a recording, one of your stories, because She's a revered storyteller. The BBC did an hour special on her. The University of Washington in Seattle just built a huge building that is called the Vi Hilbert Building. And I asked her, I said, Vi, would you do the Chief Seattle one, when everybody's gone, you can't eat, you can't eat money, a story that a lot of people know. And she goes, no, Dave, I will not do that. She goes, this is what the white people want me to say and all that stuff. I'm going to tell my story. And I went, you go, girl, you tell your story.
I
And
love it. I love it.
and she
Now,
did.
she appears on the last track, if I'm not mistaken.
And in several other places in smaller ways. But yes, on the last track particularly, she did a book called Lady Louse. And, I outside of Vi, it's strange to say this, but outside of Vi, I probably know this story better than anybody else, because I've heard it. I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times I've heard it. And, and I think it's different for everybody else, but to me, I take away from it. Lady Lost lived there in a great big house. There was lots of dirt, and she was all alone, and she didn't want anybody's help. And she took the house and swept it, and there was so much dirt that it became a great big pile. And Lady Louse got lost, and that was the end of Lady Louse. Basically, I take away from that is that people have to work together in order to get things done. And in this day and age, that's, in the age of divisiveness, that's a powerful story.
Truly. Yeah, so with Gamma, if I remember correctly, the concept was to try to describe light with music. Is
Yeah,
that close enough?
it was very loose in a lot of ways. Finding a way to pull a project together was best done in that way through light. Haida has a much stronger thread and a
A
much
stronger
stronger story.
theme still, yeah, and it
Yeah.
presents itself right away. It certainly drew me in. I, for one, really resonate with the idea of trying to return people to a stronger connection with nature
Yeah.
and with the past, with the native cultures. What happened in the past on this continent is they tended to get really pushed aside and
Oh, yeah.
but a lot
And
of it
that,
has persisted, and I get the sense from listening to this album that we have a great benefit to gain personally from connecting with that.
Mike, I really appreciate your saying all this.
Well, I feel it very deeply, and that's something that the album helps with. And so I'm pretty passionate about helping others to experience it as well. And I'm grateful that you were able to bring this project forward and deliver it
And
to listeners in a way that they can digest.
you bet. The other thing is, though, as you said, it's Haida Raven. There is a second disc. The Haida Raven came out on July 24th, if I remember right. I'm trying to remember. It's Vi's birthday. So I decided to release it on Vi's birthday. And Haida Dreamcatcher comes out next year on Vi's birthday. And Dreamcatcher is the second disc, which is sort of semi-orchestral in nature. The first piece is 12 minutes long of live strings.
All right, so we're going to get a different set of instrumentation on the
Mm-hmm.
second installment. Now, you're calling these discs. Are they going to be available on a physical format?
No, they're not. And you bring up an important point. It's a habit. I call them discs just out of habit. I decided to release this myself. In this day and age of record labels and stuff like that, it's just hard. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to try and do it myself. So it's out on Bandcamp, which I am a huge believer in Bandcamp. For one thing, the artist gets 85% of the proceeds. And another thing is the Bandcamp. It's such a strongly coded site. The coding from a website perspective is so well done that it allows the artist to have all of this power. And no other site even remotely comes close to Bandcamp for giving the artist the ability to reach out to their fans and people in such powerful ways. For example, when you buy Haida Raven, you get the stereo files. You can do that. You can choose MP3, of course. You could choose FLAC. I'm not sure if you can do WAV or not, but you can certainly do FLAC. And I'm a big FLAC, stuff. So that's 24. So you actually get 2496 FLAC files when you get it. But then there are what is called bonus items, and the bonus items there's a PDF booklet. There's the high resolution cover art, but there's also that's where you get the surround files. And so you download this document, and then on the document you just click on it. That takes you to my personal thing where you download the files.
Yeah, that was my experience. It was rather seamless.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. In this day and age, with artists basically getting almost nothing from streaming their music, it is good that there are outlets that, give most of the proceeds to the artist, but also allow you to distribute. I'm on Bandcamp as well, and I'm following you there.
Oh, wow.
So let's talk about any other.
There's one thing I just thought, staying on the topic of surround, because you work with immersive and stuff like that, is I decided to do 5.1 and not 7.1, and for me that was a really easy decision because I'm distributing it in FLAC, and I as you know, I do discrete sound all throughout all the speakers. And
Right.
if I would do it release it as 7.1, that means that the majority of listeners will be -2 speakers, and I was not willing to do that. So it's like, nope, I'm releasing it in 5.1 because FLAC cannot downmix. So you would actually just lose 2 of the tracks, and with my stuff, that means you're losing too much information.
Well, that's excellent to know. Yeah, so you're hitting the widest audience for sure, because a lot of people have 5.1 in their houses even just for watching movies.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'll let you catch your thought right now, is you just hit another thing, is I really believe that the industry overall has let everybody down by not promoting to the gamers and not promoting to the home theater systems the idea of music, but particularly to gamers, because there's the installment of surround systems for gamers and home theaters, of course, but for gamers, I think, have been completely ignored for music. And it's a huge audience that I think should not be ignored to be able to experience surround music.
Well, I'm doing my best to try to bring surround music to people such as gamers. The younger crowd tend to watch video more than frequenting text-based sites like Facebook groups or forums. So that was sort of the idea of starting up Life in Surround, just to
That's
try
awesome.
to grow this hobby of surround music appreciation. So I noticed that the 2L recording of your choir, that it was recorded in RO. So do you have any future
Does it?
plans for working
Oh,
with
yeah, I
RO?
guess it. um, well, I don't know is my best answer. I've done a lot of stuff in past. Wilfred with Galaxy Studios has been so incredibly kind to me and so good, and working with the studios and stuff. But I don't know how I feel about it. With the bass and stuff like that, and Oro really is very strong for music and strong for audio, and is probably the best for audio. What is the 800-pound gorilla? Of course, it's Dolby Atmos.
Right.
The thing with Atmos is you have to have a video file. So you have to have it in a video, and one can do, and how do you release an Atmos file? I mean, who can play a pure Atmos file? Actually, right now, I'm not able to answer that. There might be people out, you might know, or other people, and I can't answer that.
The only way
You know,
I'm aware of is via, Blu-ray player through an AVR.
can you encode an Atmos file into an MP4 and release the MP4 purely as itself? I think the answer might be yes, but I don't know. So there's all of that. So and am I thinking about redoing my studio with a 9.1 system? Yeah, I actually am. Have I mixed in 9.1? A lot. So I'm quite familiar with it, and it's quite simple. The way that I work, is quite simple to do in 9.1, and a hell of a lot of fun. So I might change my studio over. I simply don't know at this point.
Yeah, so far, mostly what I'm seeing out of RO, or what did you call it?
Yeah,
Oro,
or what?
is
Sorry.
coming out of Galaxy Studios. That would be
Yeah.
really interesting if you were able to set yourself up to do it on your own as well.
Well, I sort of rather would not do. Any way that I can help Wilfred. Will it basically when you say Oro, when you say Galaxy, you can say anything you want. It ends up being Wilfred. He's the owner of everything, and I'd be happy to help Wilfred in any way that I can.
Well,
Um,
they sure are cranking out some awesome works. Some of my favorite albums right now are in RO, like
hmm,
Two L's, uh, Mass for Modern Man, and the Magnificat.
right. Yeah, no, for me, you say company names, I say people names. To me, it's Wilfred and Morton. um, so yeah, and Wilfred and Morton have a long-standing respect for each other. So there is this symbiotic helping of helping each other out, which is awesome. I think that's a wonderful thing about both of these guys and so many people in the industry.
Well, that's exciting. So whether in the future you work with 5.1 or 9.1 or 11.1 or whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it. I know that a lot of Life and Surround viewers are as well. I've been chatting with some over the last few days, and they were very excited that I was going to get to talk to you. Um, so we're behind you all the way and looking forward to what comes in the future, including Dreamcatcher coming just next year.
Yeah. And then after that, I start working my way into Javanese gamelan from an elect
Awesome.
from an electronic standpoint and from an actual real gamelan standpoint.
Nice. And
I'd be so,
right now the offering is Haida Raven and
yep,
available at Bandcamp. And you also have a website. So let's plug your various outlets real quick. You have a website.
right. If you don't want to type in davidmileshuber.com, you can go 51bpm.com and it will take you to davidmileshuber.com. So, there's the website there, or you could go to Bandcamp and simply, type in David Miles Huber. Those are the best ways. And, just going the Bandcamp site, that's where you go into to download and get all the stuff. And I've decided on $10 for the album, which, is for all of the albums, which includes the surround mixes.
In this day and age where more often than not, surround enthusiasts have to buy a $100+ box set just to get one surround mix, that's an amazing value.
Thanks. And so, yeah, I did that decision for that reason and on purpose. And also just to promote people to do things in a downloadable fashion in this way. The best player that I feel for this is, on the computer would be VLC player or whatever works. But, for me, VLC just works so well. And then the other thing would be to download it and put it onto a thumb drive, put that thumb drive into your home theater system, and it will just see the FLAC file and begin playing.
I've done both and it works great.
Awesome.
David, I sure appreciate you taking time to talk to me today. It is a real honor, and I'm enjoying Raven and looking forward to Dreamcatcher and whatever comes in the future.
Likewise, Mike, I truly appreciate it. Thanks. So the call was really great, and your timing is really good. I head off to the hotel here in Berlin, and I'm doing a live Facebook talk about this to people all around the world. And so afterwards, people who are listening to this can actually go probably onto my Facebook or something, and I'll also put it onto the site. And do the. We'll see how that video comes out. I'm not the most video savvy guy in the world, but I will do my best.
So you're going to be on live Facebook a little bit later?
6 p.m. Berlin time, which would be 12 p.m. East Coast time, and that's 9 a.m. West Coast time.
Excellent. Well, if I
Sorry.
have a chance, I'll check it out.
That would be a great way, and we could all, and I'm having the two-way talk and stuff, so we can, you can type in and we can talk and stuff. It'd be great to have you there. Hey,
Excellent.
Mike, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. I sure enjoyed it, and look forward to all of the music in the future.
And we'll stay connected, and we'll catch up again.
All right. Thanks a lot, and take care.
Thanks, Mike. Bye bye.
Bye.